If you've ever had an ex who tried to control your life even after the breakup, listen to this. Because this woman's ex threatened every man who so much as looked at her. Until she started dating a 6'5" MMA fighter who wasn't scared of him at all. As you listen, I want you thinking about one thing. Would you want someone you love to confront a dangerous ex like this? Or is that crossing a line? Tell me at the end. I'm really curious where you land. My abusive ex threatened every man who looked at me until I started dating an MMA fighter who's 6'5". Meet Madison, 27, graphic designer in Austin. She thought leaving Derek would end the nightmare. After 4 years in the worst relationship of her life, she finally moved out. The very next day, the threats began. A stranger smiled at her in Target. Just a normal human moment. Hours later, Derek was pounding on her door, screaming through the wood that no one was allowed to look at her. The police came. Derek flipped the switch like he always did. All smiles, all apologies, sweet voice. It was a misunderstanding. They told both of them to move on. He didn't. It kept happening. A barista chatted while making her latte. After his shift, he walked out to the parking lot and found all 4 tires slashed. At the gym, a guy asked Madison if she was done with the machine. Derek followed him to his car and threatened him. Security footage got Derek banned from that gym, but the pattern never stopped. For 2 years, Madison learned how to be invisible. She tried a restraining order. It went nowhere because Derek never touched her. He targeted the men around her and always stayed just far enough away to deny everything. Friends begged her to move back home. Her mom wanted her in Ohio. Madison stayed. She built a life in Austin and lived like a prisoner inside it. Then one Wednesday, in the middle of a deadline, her laptop died. Total blackout. She ran to a nearby repair shop in tears and met Cameron behind the counter. He was massive, at least 6'5", broken nose, scar through his eyebrow. But his voice was gentle. He calmed her down, fixed the laptop in an hour, and refused to charge labor. He handed her a card and said if anything tech-related broke, he had her back. Outside, Derek was watching from across the street, smiling like a warning. Madison braced for the fallout. She checked the shop's page the next day, expecting vandalism, slashed tires, something. Nothing. She walked past. Cameron waved, still nothing. 3 days went by, still nothing. At the farmer's market that weekend, Cameron appeared again with a reusable bag and a smile. He bought her breakfast burritos and lemonade. They sat under a tree and talked. He trained mixed martial arts and had fought 12 times, won 9. He said fighting taught him control and discipline. When people hear fighter, they think aggression, he told her. For me, it means careful restraint. She gave him her number, but she warned him first. Derek always punished any man who showed her kindness. Cameron's reply was simple. That's horrible. He wasn't afraid. He wanted to take her to dinner. They went to a downtown Italian spot. He was preparing for a fight in 3 weeks against a strong wrestler. Cameron's strength was striking, but in MMA, you have to be well-rounded. After dinner, he walked Madison to her car. He asked to see her again. She said yes. Dates became a routine. He was patient, didn't push, made her feel safe. Fight night came. Madison brought her best friend Jessica. Cameron knocked his opponent out in the 2nd round. Backstage, he introduced Madison to everyone as his girlfriend and kissed her for the first time. Then came the reveal. Sitting in his truck after the celebration, Cameron told her that Derek had already come to the shop 2 weeks earlier. Derek tried threats, tried intimidation. Cameron let him talk, then calmly explained that he'd trained for 12 years. He told Derek that if he came near Madison again, if he even drove past her apartment or sent a text, there would be consequences. Not a threat, a promise. Derek tried to act tough for about 10 seconds. Then he left. He never came back. 4 months passed without a single appearance. Madison and Cameron moved into a small house with a yard, starting fresh away from the places that held trauma. Jessica and Cameron's teammates helped them move. Cameron noticed how Madison evaluated every house, locks, lighting, escape routes. He told her they'd take their time and choose safety first. They had their first argument 3 months in. It was small. He forgot to say he'd be late. She panicked when he didn't answer. He apologized. No yelling, no punishment, no silent treatment, just accountability. Madison cried because she remembered how Derek turned every disagreement into war. Healing wasn't linear. At a crowded restaurant, she had a panic attack. Cameron walked her out without questions, drove her home, and urged her to see a therapist again. She found Dr. Lisa Chen, a trauma specialist who reminded Madison she didn't cause what happened to her. She survived it. That is strength. Then came a turning point. At a grocery store, Madison saw Derek in the frozen aisle. He saw her, then grabbed his cart and walked away. He didn't say a word. Soon after, a message arrived from Amber, 23, who had just started dating Derek and felt something was off. Madison met her at a coffee shop and told her everything. Amber broke up with Derek 2 days later. He screamed and punched walls, but she got out. When he parked outside Amber's apartment and watched her window, Madison and Cameron drove over. Cameron confronted him at his car, reminded him of their last conversation, and made it clear that if Derek harassed anyone again, his employer downtown would learn exactly who he really was. Cameron had already researched the firm's code of conduct. Derek left. Life kept opening. At the farmer's market, Cameron announced a regional championship fight. He told Madison true strength is choosing who to protect. 3 weeks later, after a brutal 5-round war, Cameron landed a perfect combination. The ref waved it off. He became the regional champion. In the locker room, he told Madison they saved each other. A bigger promotion offered him a contract. They traveled to Dallas, San Antonio, Las Vegas. He won some, lost one in Vegas to a better fighter that night. Madison reminded him that coming home safe mattered more than any record. In Phoenix, before a fight, Cameron pulled out a small box. He'd been carrying the ring for months. He asked Madison to marry him. She said yes. The next night, he won again and dedicated the victory to his fiancée. Wedding planning started. Small, outdoors, 40 people, string lights behind the gym where they became who they are now. Their families met. Cameron's mom told Madison about the drunk driver who took Cameron's dad when he was 17. Cameron fights to honor his father, using his size for good. Then a private investigator named Tyler reached out. Derek had another girlfriend, Rachel, who had hired him early. They found 5 other women with similar stories. A restraining order was finally served. The district attorney started considering stalking and harassment charges. The preliminary hearing would be 2 weeks after the wedding. The prosecutor, Victoria, had been in domestic violence work for 15 years. She said it was rare to see this many victims willing to stand together. The ending is quiet and powerful. At Target, in the same kind of aisle where it all began, a stranger smiled at Madison. She smiled back. Nothing happened. No pounding on doors, no threats. She breathed free air and drove home to the house she shares with Cameron. That night, he fights locally, and she'll be front row, in his shirt, screaming for the love she chose. Abuse did not make her stronger. It broke her. She did the work to rebuild. Cameron stood beside her and made her world bigger. Now I want to hear from you. When harm relies on isolation, what happens when survivors stand together and refuse to be silent? Would you want someone you love to confront an abuser like Cameron did? Or would you handle it differently? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if stories like this hit close to home for you, save this. Share it with someone who needs to hear they're not alone. And follow for more real stories about leaving abuse behind and finding something safer and bigger on the other side.